Hello, my friend, and welcome to Tracey's Fancy here on YouTube. Today we are going to discuss this gorgeous headboard, this old world angelic headboard that I've created here. I actually used a decoupaged paper by WoodUBend Posh Chalk. It's one of their A1 designs that I did on the center of this headboard. That is not hand painted where the angels are, but overall around that is hand painted, and that is something that I taught in a class. But today you and I are going to focus on this part right here, this texturized mold attachments, the outside frame of the bedpost. I want to focus on how to get, if you're going to do some sort of old world design with, say, like this decoupage paper, how you can make the frame of the bed also have that old world feel as well, just by adding a lot of texture to your paint. Like this. Look at that. Would you look at that texture? That is created by just using a specific type of paint, which we're going to talk about today, and using wet distressing as well. So I cannot wait to show you how I accomplished this, and let's go ahead and dive right into it now. All right, so before we get into the painting, we need to add a few molds. I am using WoodUBend molds, which are heat. You add heat to them, they get super bendy, you add a little bit of wood glue and you glue them into place. So you heat your molds first, then you apply wood glue to the back of it, and then you apply it to your actual furniture piece. It's really important that you make sure that you spread the glue around to every inch of the mold itself, and then you just put it into place wherever you've chosen to add this element to your bed or your piece of furniture. You want to press really, really hard, make sure it's in place. You can heat it one more time, a second time, once it's in place with your heat gun. Give it one more press and wipe away any excess glue that comes out from around the outside, and you are done. No more clamping, no more taping it in place. It just sort of suctions to the piece of furniture itself. That is the beauty of this product. So you can see here that I've chosen a pair of scrolls that I'm going to add to the top of this frame up here that I thought was a little bit boring, and we could use a little bit of eye candy. So look at that bend. I heated it up. You can see that it can bend. I'm adding a little bit of wood glue here to it, spreading it out really well, and then place it where you had decided, which, as you can see here, I thought it was supposed to be on that side, and then I'm like, oh no, but it's this side. Flip it over, get it into place, press really hard. Again, we will heat it again, give it one more press, and it's in place. Like I said, you don't have to clamp in place, you don't have to tape it in place. You saw me there just using a small artist brush, just removing any glue that came out from around the outside. And we're good. Let's move on to adding paint now. So now that our elements are in place, I wanted to have a dark underlayer. So I am using, this is important, Terra clay-based paint. It is by Dixie Belle. It's a brand new line. It's called Terra clay-based paint. And this here is Onyx. It is the blackest of black in that new line of paint. And I did not add any texture additive to this paint at all. The paint is very thick. It's like pudding. So I use a stippling technique that you can see me doing right here. And the paint does not have a self-leveler in it like their chalk mineral paint does. So whatever you do to the paint, it literally stands and holds that shape. So I'm trying to add texture to this bed, and so I do that by, you can either brush the paint in place and then stipple through it, or you can just, see there, you saw me sort of brush back and forth, or you can just stipple it on to begin with. So I'm just going to do this all over the molds that I put into place. Every square inch of it, I'm going to do this in black. So you're not worried about brush strokes. I'm not adding any water to it. I want it to be as thick and textured as it possibly can be, so that we have a really nice underlayer, and that way when we wet distress, which I'll show you how in just a minute, we're going to get that really cool texture that you saw at the very beginning of this video when I showed you the up close of that right bed post. Okay, so the entire frame has been done in black, and I do not think this looks good around that bed, but my intention was for this to be our underlayer. So the entire thing is done. Let's move in close. Looky there, look at the texture. It's going to hold on to that, which is what we want. We're going to let this dry before we bring on our next color of terra clay based paint, and we're going to add another layer of texture to that again. Would you look at that? It already looks like stone. Isn't that amazing? Do you see the variations in color as it dries? And the black was locked in place, so you can actually see some of the black, and the light color is on top of that. So now we're going to move on to wet distressing. You can see that mold there and this mold here on the right. I'm going to use a baby wipe to start to bring forward some of that black. Look how quickly and easily it distresses. That was dry paint. So I'm just rubbing this baby wipe around all of the edges, wiping back and forth straight over the paint. Anywhere that you want to add some natural distress look, you just wipe away with a baby wipe or a damp shop towel, and you have got a wet distressed look. That black was locked in place, so it is not going to rub off as you distress with your damp towel. Okay, so you can see all the black wet distressing that took place there in the back. So now I'm going to do dry brushing. So I'm using another very soft, worn out natural bristle brush, and I've got another color called Prairie Dawn, which is an almost white, and that is on my paper towel. And what I do is I drop my brush into it just a little bit, rub off all the excess on the paper towel, and I lightly brush it over, just very softly all over. I don't want to cover it with paint. It's dry brushing. I don't want hardly any paint on my brush at all. And we'll show you here up close in just a minute how the dry brushing catches all of those peaks that clay paint has left, by staying thick and puddling as I did the stipple motion. So it's all about the type of paint that you're using, the way you apply the paint, and then how you enhance. See that? Do you see the white? How it has enhanced all of the peaks and valleys there. You can see white highlights, you can see black lowlights, and then you've got that tan in the middle. So you've got three colors, three layers that we've built on top of each other, all to give this very aged look. So now I'm taking my dry brush and I'm going to do exactly what I did in that space. I'm going to do this all over for you so that you can see how quickly I do it. You want to just do a light dusting to catch all of those pits and peaks that were in the paint. Now in just a minute, you're going to see me do this on top of the center of the headboard as well. All right, here's a closer look. This is what I've just added in Prairie Dawn. Do you see that? See where it's caught on the uppermost texture there. Okay, let's go up here and look at it up here. So I call these highlights. So you can see the black underneath, you can see the mid-tone tan, and then you can see this upper outer level, sort of that sun bleached or salt washed cement look. Pretty cool, right? It's a third layer. It's all in the details. Now you might think I'm crazy to do this over the headboard, which I think looks amazing already, but what you can't see right now with your eye is that headboard is highly textured as well. I painted it with a texture additive, so it's got all sorts of like ripples and wrinkles and bumps in it. So with this very, very light hand and fast movement, I'm dry brushing and I'm just catching all of those bumps and wrinkles and adding sort of like an aged, salty look over the whole thing. And you'll be able to see that in a minute when we do some up closes. You'll be able to see exactly why we did it. And there we go. That is it. That is the completion of how to get an aged look. And it's a perfect technique to add to something like this when you're using an old world decoupage paper, so that when you paint on the wood itself around the decoupage art, you want the decoupage old world look to match the frame of the bed itself. I did teach this decoupage paper along with all of the hand painting that I did around it. I made those clouds and the dress, all of that I taught inside my private group, the Posh and Fancy. I would love for you to join us there at any time if you'd like, where you can learn those techniques as well. But for right now, as we focused on these molds and the texture of the frame, I hope that it was helpful to you to understand that you can make anything look old as long as you understand what type of paint to use, what type of brush to use, how to use the brush, and what how to build the layers and in what order. So I think that this is a fabulous look. I think it turned out really, really well. I hope I broke it down and made it simple enough for you. I would love to have you hit that subscribe button. I'll be here next Sunday as well. We put out a new YouTube video every single Sunday. Just look at that texture. Isn't it yummy? It is so yummy. Thank you so much. I look forward to having you here in my community, and you just have a fabulous day.